Level 1. The Recruit. You are 18. You didn't grow up wanting to save lives. You grew up wanting to matter. The enlistment office is on a corner you've walked past 100 times. You walk in on a Tuesday. You walk out a soldier. They assign you to combat medicine, not because you asked, because your aptitude scores said you could handle pressure, because your hands were steady during the reflex test, because someone behind a desk decided your future in 30 seconds. Which rank would you stop at? Think about it and drop your answer in the comments right now. Basic training starts 3 weeks later at Fort Sam Houston in San Antonio, Texas. Every US Army combat medic begins here. It's August. The heat presses down like a hand on your chest. You arrive with 63 other recruits. By the third day, you can't tell the scared ones from the bored ones anymore. The drill sergeant is Staff Sergeant Reyes. He doesn't raise his voice often. That's the first thing you notice. The second is that the ones who think silence is safety are usually wrong. Wake up is 0430, 4 miles before the sun comes up. Breakfast fast. Then classes that smell like floor cleaner and recycled air. Anatomy, physiology, wound treatment, hemorrhage control, IV insertion, airway management. You take notes on everything. You understand maybe half of it the first time through. First day of clinical skills. A rubber arm, a syringe. You miss the vein 3 times. The instructor marks it down and moves on. You practice after hours until your hand stops hesitating. Week 2. A simulated casualty on the mat. A mannequin with a recorded pulse playing through a speaker in its chest. 4 minutes. You forget the tourniquet placement, remember it 30 seconds late, apply it wrong. The instructor calls time. You sit on the edge of the mat and look at your hands. The recruit next to you, Ortega from Albuquerque, sets her jaw and asks to run it again. The instructor says no. She nods, writes something in her notebook, and goes back to her seat. That night, you see the light on above her bunk at 100. That night, you study until midnight. Not because they told you to, because you've seen what it looks like to not be ready, and it was a mannequin. The next time, it won't be. Week 4. Field exercise. Mud, simulated smoke, actors playing casualties. Someone is screaming to your left. Someone else isn't moving. You go to the screaming one first. Wrong call. Screaming means conscious. Conscious means breathing. The one who isn't moving is the one who needed you. You lost time. In a real scenario, you may have lost them. The instructor marks it down. You pass the written exam with a 91. You pass the practical in the top quarter of your class. Graduation is on a Tuesday morning, 5 months after you walked into that enlistment office. Staff Sergeant Reyes shakes your hand. 2 words. Stay sharp. You don't know what that means yet. You will. Level 2. Combat Medic Specialist. You are 19. 68 whiskey. Your MOS, Military Occupational Specialty. Every US Army combat medic carries it. You're assigned to a brigade combat team, 4th Infantry Division, at Fort Carson, Colorado. Your unit deploys to Kunar Province, eastern Afghanistan. 9 months. The mountains are steep and cold. The roads are narrow enough to make a convoy feel like a slow target. You learn names. Sergeant First Class Doran, your platoon sergeant, a quiet man from Ohio who speaks slowly, like each word costs something. Private First Class Malachi Webb, your bunkmate, talks too much, knows every bone in the human hand. Corporal Tessero, vehicle commander, doesn't trust medics, says so plainly. You respect the honesty. The deployment begins in November. Your first weeks are patrols, checkpoints, village assessments. You rotate through sick call in the morning, go out with the platoon in the afternoon. Villages come with things the war didn't cause. Ear infections. Fevers. A child who has never seen a thermometer. You treat what you can. Document everything. Then the third week of December. The convoy is returning from a resupply run. It is 14:17. You are in the third vehicle. The explosion comes from the left side of the second vehicle. An IED buried in the road shoulder. The blast is directional. The vehicle stops. Windows gone. Door buckled inward. You are out before you're told. Bag on your back. Running low. The vehicle commander has a laceration from the door panel. Alert. Talking. You move him first to reach the passenger seat. The passenger is Private First Class Aaron Cruz, 21, from El Paso. Not moving. Left arm wrong. Shrapnel from the door. You can see bone. Blood on the seat and floor and your gloves. Cruz opens his eyes. Is my arm still there? I've got you. Tourniquet 6 centimeters above the wound. Hemostatic gauze packed into the deeper laceration. Pressure maintained. Medevac called. 12 minutes. The helicopter comes. Cruz loses the arm below the elbow. He does not lose his life. Back at the FOB, Corporal Tesaro finds you at the water station. He doesn't speak. He puts his hand on your shoulder for 2 seconds and walks away. That's how you know you did your job. You treat 17 casualties over the deployment. You lose 1. Private Torres, 20. Blast injury. Airway compromised. You did everything correctly. It wasn't enough. You carry that. Not as failure. As weight. There's a difference. It takes time to learn which one you're holding. Level 3. The Senior Medic Specialist. You are 22. 2 combat patches now. 1 from Afghanistan. 1 from Iraq. Anbar province. They don't feel like achievements. They feel like receipts. There is a 19-year-old named Specialist Huang who arrived 2 months ago from Fort Sam Houston, still smelling like training. His hands are steady. He asks good questions. He has never seen what happens when a tourniquet goes on too late. You are his senior medic. Every mistake he makes in the field traces back to what you taught him, or failed to teach him. You run scenarios every Tuesday and Thursday. You practice IV insertion until the bruising on your forearms looks like something that should be reported. You run triage drills in the dark. 1 flashlight between you. The scenario different every time. One Thursday afternoon, Huang freezes. Simulated explosion. 2 casualties down. He moves to the first and stops. 5 seconds. 10. You let it run 3 seconds, past the point where it matters, then step in. After, sitting on the tailgate of the HMMWV, you don't tell him he froze. You ask what he saw. Too much. He was reading every signal at once, and the system locked. You tell him about Cruz, about the buckled door, about the 12 minutes. You say, the scenario will never look the way they showed you in training. Stop looking for the training version. Look for the person who needs you most. That's the only question. He nods. 2 weeks later, he runs the same scenario clean. You're not proud, you're relieved. There's a difference. Before we go further, if you've made it this far, comment what you want next. Hit that like button right now and subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next. We upload every single day. Level 4, Squad Medic Leader. You are 25, Sergeant E5. You now lead a medical team of 4, 2 junior medics, 1 combat lifesaver, 1 vehicle operator who doubles as a stretcher bearer. You are responsible for the medical readiness of 120 soldiers. Your new assignment is with the 75th Ranger Regiment at Fort Moore, Georgia. Rangers are a different standard. The expectations are blunter. Either you perform under stress or you don't, and there is no comfort offered either way. You complete the Ranger assessment and selection program. 6 weeks, 65-pound pack, 40 hours without sleep. Someone asking you questions about blood pressure while you move uphill in the dark. Sleep deprivation, caloric restriction, constant evaluation. The cadre are watching everything, not just how you perform, but how you perform when you have nothing left. You pass. Your platoon sergeant is Master Sergeant Caldwell, 38 years old, 7 deployments across 4 countries. He speaks to everyone the same way, regardless of rank. First week, he calls you in. He puts a personnel file on the desk. You don't touch it. Your medics are good individually. They're not a team. That's on you. Roger that. That's all. You spend the next 3 weeks turning 4 individuals into a unit. Rehearsals, role rotations, communication drills. You make Huang lead a scenario while you observe, harder than leading it yourself, because watching someone else struggle is a different kind of pressure. You let him struggle long enough to figure it out. Your first Ranger deployment is Northern Syria, Deir ez-Zor region. Special Operations Support. You are not kicking doors. You are keeping the people who kick doors alive, long enough to do it again. 7 weeks in. A vehicle strike. 4 Rangers down, 2 critically. 11 minutes to medevac. The landing zone is being prepped under fire. You assign Huang on the first critical, you on the second. Corporal James Whitmore, 24. Head trauma. Glasgow coma, scale of 8. Barely responsive. You cannot do neurosurgery in a field dressing. What you can do is control his airway, stabilize his breathing, keep his pressure up, and get him to the helicopter with enough life left for the surgeons to work with. You talk to him the entire 11 minutes. He can't respond. You talk anyway. Your job right now is to breathe. That's the whole job. Whitmore spends 6 weeks at Landstuhl Regional Medical Center in Germany, then transfers stateside. 18 months later, you receive a message. 3 words. I remember your voice. Level 5. Platoon medic. You are 28. Staff sergeant. Senior medic for a Ranger platoon of 38 soldiers. You treat casualties, but you also manage preventive care, mental health monitoring, physical readiness, disease threats, and pre-mission medical briefings. Your deployment is Mali, West Africa, an advise and assist mission in the Sahel. The heat here is wet and constant. The threats are quieter than bullets. Malaria, waterborne illness, heat injury. These are your weapons as much as any surgical skill. There is a soldier in your platoon, Private First Class Deshaun Merritt. 19. Good soldier. 3 weeks in, he stops eating much. Sleeps too long. Goes quiet. Nobody reports it. He's doing his job. He's not falling out of formations. You notice. You sit next to him at chow one evening. How are you actually doing? Fine, Sergeant. You wait. I don't know. That's enough. You schedule a welfare check under a routine health screening. 40 minutes. What comes out is a letter from home. Family. Weight that has no field dressing. You connect him to the battalion chaplain and the deployed behavioral health officer. You document it as a medical concern, not a performance issue. 4 weeks later, Merritt wins a fitness award in the company. You never mention the conversation. That's part of the job nobody puts in a manual. Your after-action report notes 0 preventable deaths from disease or environmental injury. That number looks small. It took constant work to keep it there. Level 6, Senior Medical Advisor. You are 32. Sergeant First Class. You completed the Special Forces qualification course 2 years ago. The 18D medical training was 57 weeks, longer than most medical school rotations. You can perform emergency cricothyrotomy, chest tube insertion, fasciotomy for compartment syndrome, emergency dental extractions. You can manage a septic patient for 72 hours in the field, in the complete absence of a physician. You are not a doctor. You are something else. A medic trained to operate where doctors will not be coming. Your A-team is in Mindanao, Philippines, partnered with armed forces of the Philippines units, conducting counter-terrorism operations against Abu Sayyaf group. The mission is advise and assist. You spend the first weeks assessing what the partner force has. Expired antibiotics, a suture kit missing 3 sizes, a blood pressure cuff with a cracked bulb, and a medic named Corporal Reyes Santos, who has had 3 weeks of formal training and has been keeping people alive on instinct and care for 2 years. Santos knows things no manual taught him. You know things no field has shown him. By week 3, you are learning from each other. You train 24 AFP medics over 4 months. hemorrhage control, airway management, IV access under pressure. Scenarios in the courtyard of a half-rebuilt schoolhouse, using what's available, adapting everything. Third month. Contact situation 6 kilometers north. 2 AFP soldiers hit. The patrol medic is Private Domingo Cruz, 21, one of your trainees. He manages a tension pneumothorax with a needle decompression, a procedure he practiced 12 times in your training sessions. Both soldiers survive. You find Cruz at the water point. You saved 2 lives today. That was your skill. Own it. He looks at the ground, nods once. The next morning, he's already in the courtyard running the other trainees through the scenario himself. Level 7. Medical Operations Sergeant. You are 36. Master Sergeant. You no longer hold a scalpel. You hold something harder to put down. Accountability. You are the Medical Operations Sergeant for a Special Forces group. You coordinate medical planning across multiple A-teams, multiple theaters. You review after-action reports and determine what training gaps they reveal. A medic in Niger files a report on a mass casualty incident. 3 local nationals wounded. 1 died before care could be rendered. The report is clinical, correct, and clearly written by someone holding themselves together by force of professionalism. You call him. Staff Sergeant Diaz, 29, 4th deployment. What's not in the report? Quiet. Then, the kid was probably 14, Sergeant. You don't fill the silence. I know the timeline. I know every second I used correctly. I still don't know what to do with it. Write it down, not the report. Somewhere else. Not because it fixes anything. Because it matters that it happened, and someone who was there said so. Did that help you? It's still helping. That is the work nobody counts. Keeping the medics who treat casualties from becoming casualties themselves. You spend 14 months advocating for an expanded behavioral health program for 18D medics. 3 written proposals. Briefings with 2 colonels and 1 general. You are told twice that the resources aren't available. You come back with revised cost analysis. You attach after-action data on medic attrition and early medical discharge rates. You make the argument in numbers because some rooms only hear numbers. The program is approved. That night, you sit alone in your office and read back through every after-action report you ever filed in the field. All of them. From 19 years old in Kunar province to now. You count the names. Level 8. Medical Senior Enlisted Leader. You are 42. Sergeant Major. You are now the Senior Medical Enlisted Leader for a Special Operations Command component. Your role is not operational. It is architectural. Training standards, equipment procurement, doctrine development, readiness assessment across an entire command. You travel constantly. Germany, Japan, Colombia, Jordan. 6 weeks, 4 countries. In every location, you ask the same question. What do your medics not have that they need? The answers are predictable. More training time, better equipment, mental health access without career implications. You hear that last one everywhere. In Stuttgart, a medic named Staff Sergeant Chen, 31, requested a behavioral health consultation and was told, informally, by his team sergeant, that it might affect his next evaluation. Chen stopped requesting. You find out through a welfare report. You fly to Stuttgart. You meet the team sergeant privately. This is not a negotiation. Seeking mental health care is not a disqualifier. Treating it as one is a leadership failure, and it will be documented as such. He says, I didn't know that was the message I was sending. That's why I'm here. Chen gets his consultation. He stays on the team. By the following year, he is the finest medic in his battalion by every metric. You build the behavioral health access policy into the command's medical readiness framework. Not a footnote, a requirement. It will outlast your time in the army. Your rank gives you distance from the field and proximity to the decisions that shape the field. You can no longer stop a hemorrhage with your hands. What you can do is make sure the person whose hands are on that wound has everything they need. That is not a lesser version of the work. Level 9. Senior Medical Enlisted Advisor. You are 47, Command Sergeant Major, the highest enlisted rank in the United States Army. Fewer than 5,000 soldiers hold it at any given time. You are the Command Sergeant Major of the United States Army Medical Center of Excellence at Fort Sam Houston, the same installation where you first held a rubber arm and missed the vein 3 times. You walk those classrooms now. You watch 18-year-olds learn in rooms that still smell like floor cleaner and recycled air. One afternoon, a recruit freezes during a triage scenario. 2 casualties down. She goes to the wrong one first. The instructor starts to speak. You put your hand up. You crouch down after the scenario ends. She's bracing for correction. Tell me what you saw. She tells you everything. Too much. Every signal at once. That's not a mistake. That's the first version. You'll run it again. She does. She gets it right. You update the training curriculum twice in your first year. You add a mass casualty scenario involving civilians because 3 after-action reports showed medics hesitating when the wounded weren't in uniform. You add a mandatory mental health integration module, not a footnote, a requirement. You brief the Surgeon General of the Army. You sit across from a 3-star general and tell her what the junior medics are telling you. She listens. Some of it changes. You walk the installation every morning, not for visibility. You stopped doing things for visibility a long time ago. You walk it because the 18-year-old who missed the vein 3 times is still in every room, in every recruit who doesn't yet know their hands can steady under pressure. You remember what it felt like not to know that. That memory is the most useful thing you've brought to this rank. Level 10. The Senior Medical Advisor. You are 52. You retired 14 months ago. The ceremony was in the same building where you once briefed colonels on behavioral health policy. People said kind things. Someone called you a legend. You didn't know what to do with that word. You thought about Private Torres, 20, Anbar Province. Legends don't carry names like that. 6 months after retirement, you accepted a role as Senior Medical Advisor to a multinational coalition force. Civilian advisory. No rank, no uniform. Coordinating trauma care integration and partner force medical training across 3 conflict-affected countries. You fly to Brussels, then Amman, then Nairobi. In Nairobi, you meet Colonel Amina Odhiambo, a Kenyan army surgeon building a combat trauma program from scratch on a budget that wouldn't cover a single US platoon's medical supplies for a month. She doesn't ask for sympathy. She asks for protocol. You give her everything. Triage frameworks, hemorrhage control training guides. The behavioral health integration module from Fort Sam Houston, adapted for her context. 12 days with her team. On the last day, she asks, what was the hardest rank? You think for a long time. Not the level where you first lost someone. Not the level where you were responsible for 120 soldiers. Not the room with the general. The first one, because you don't know yet what you're capable of, and everything depends on whether you try anyway. She writes it down. You fly home. On the flight, somewhere over the Mediterranean, you think about the first triage scenario you ever failed. The mannequin with the recorded pulse, the 4 minutes, the instructor calling time. You thought that moment was about failure. It wasn't. It was about the version of you that existed before you understood what was possible. Every level after that was distance from that version, not because you outgrew it, but because you kept returning to it. Every recruit you watched freeze. Every medic you called after a hard deployment. Every policy meeting where you said the name of a soldier who wasn't in the room. You brought that 18-year-old with you everywhere. In your study, there is a shelf. A worn tourniquet from Kuna Province. A photograph from 2009. A note from a ranger corporal who remembered your voice. A challenge coin from the Philippines. A policy document with your name in the acknowledgements. And a rubber practice arm, cracked at the elbow, brought home from Fort Sam Houston on your last day as Command Sergeant Major. Not a trophy. A reminder. The work began with your hands on that arm, missing the vein 3 times. Learning that being unready is not a permanent state. It never stopped being about that. You were never just a soldier climbing a ladder. You were a person learning. Under real pressure, with real people depending on you, that skill is not something you have. It is something you build. One day, one patient, one decision at a time. And the building never stops.